So this week, I'm celebrating 15 years since I drank my very last soda. I actually can't remember my very last soda because my decision to quit drinking it came very suddenly and out of an unusual circumstance that I had 15 years ago this week. So I was 16 years old and I was going to college part time, and I used to have very atrocious eating habits and lifestyle habits in general. When I was a kid, I used to drink 2 to 4 liters of soda every day, and my parents would bug me about it, but they would give in and buy the soda. And eventually, I was old enough to walk to the store to buy the soda, even when they didn't. And it drove all of us crazy because we would go grocery shopping maybe once every week or 2 weeks, and my parents would buy some amount of soda and hope that I would ration it out during 2 weeks, but I would drink it in 2 days, 3 days maybe, and then the rest of the week I would complain about not having soda. I would try to sneak out of the house to walk to the store to buy. So we lived in a suburb which was about a mile and a half away from the nearest grocery store, and my parents didn't think that was a very safe place for me to walk because I was only 15 or 16 years old, and I had a lot of enemies from high school, and they just didn't want me out about in the area, and it became a little bit of a feud for many years about how much soda I was drinking. I was never happy with the amount I was drinking. They weren't happy that I was drinking that much soda, so it was a no-win situation. What I didn't realize was I should have just quit altogether. And the way I found out is kind of an interesting circumstance. I was very overweight. I weighed about as much as I do today, but I was significantly shorter. And my first week of class, when I returned back to school in 2003, there was a girl in the classroom that I was interested, but I was so overweight. I was thinking, what should I do? And I remember thinking, if I'm suffering by drinking half as much soda as I like to, and I'm suffering anyway, why not just quit it altogether and get all of the benefit and probably not nearly as much more suffering as I'm already suffering. It was kind of that kind of attitude that I took on when I first decided not to drink soda. And so I got home that afternoon, and I was about to get some soda. Let's try some water instead. I hadn't drank water for some time. I used to drink a lot of soda, a lot of juice, just a lot of crap. So I drank my first glass of water in a very long time. And I remember thinking, hey, it's not so bad. It's not so bad. And I was like, because I took on the water with a positive attitude. I think that's why it didn't taste so bad. It wasn't somebody forcing me to drink it anymore. And so I was like, I can do this. And I remember thinking that, I had nothing to lose. It wasn't like I wasn't going through withdrawal or anything. And I just took it with a positive attitude, and I think that's what's important about it. And the funny thing is, when I stopped drinking the soda, I almost instinctively wanted to clean up the rest of my diet because other things just aren't so appealing anymore without the soda. You eat burgers, you want to drink soda. You eat pizza, you want to drink soda. And once soda was gone, the other things just kind of evaporated from my diet as well. And then I started to read food ingredients because I love chemistry. When I was my first year in college, I wanted to major in chemistry, but my parents thought I was a little bit too careless for it. I had done some very basic experiments at home, and I caused a lot of damage to our home because of careless mistakes. Things would explode or catch fire, and they were already pretty upset about that, and they didn't want me to mess with even more dangerous things. So, what was the most update? Oh, one time I almost blew up the house because I was trying to make an explosive called sodium chlorate. This is made by electrolysis of salt water, and it was a very slow process. I had made a small batch using a battery, and I wanted to make it a lot faster. and I tried to get an extension cord that I could put in the salt water and plug it in. When I did that, all hell broke loose. It was at our front doorstep, and the wire heated up. I couldn't reach for it, and it was spewing out a lot of toxic gases, probably chlorine or chlorine dioxide. And I couldn't get the extension cord. I had to go to the basement to turn off the circuit breaker. And when I came back to the front door, the whole place just filled with all sorts of toxic gases. Not only the chlorine, but also whatever the chlorine had reacted with in the wiring or the container. It was a mess. And my parents were so upset about that. And another time, I took a phone book and I stuffed it with sodium chlorate, and I set it on fire in the fireplace, and the whole house shook from the explosion. And long story short, my parents didn't want me to play with chemistry after that. And that was that. But I started to read food ingredients just as part of my passion for chemistry. And I learned that part of the reason that soda is so bad for you is because it contains high fructose corn syrup. And from there, I took it from there and started to read about other food ingredients that are bad for you. And that was, long story short, 15 years later, I'm still learning about how to optimize my diet and lifestyle and whatnot. Okay, so over the 15 years, I have some important lessons I want to take. I want to just to mention in this video. Early on, people thought that I was crazy about not drinking any amount of soda. I just instinctively knew I was a lot happier. I knew that if I drank any amount of soda, it would be like foregoing the rest of the soda. So yeah, if I used to drink 2 liters of soda, and my parents were only buying me half a liter a day, I wasn't enjoying the half a liter. I was missing the other liter and a half that I wasn't drinking. Oh, that's how I felt, and I instinctively knew that. I didn't know how to tell people that, but I knew it. And when people would say, an occasional soda isn't bad for you or anything, I didn't know how to respond. I just wouldn't drink it, but I would get into these arguments with people. So early on when I first stopped drinking soda, at least I would do that. You know, it's so much easier for somebody with an alcohol problem. You go to a party and you offer somebody a beer and they say, I'm recovering from alcohol. People understand right away. They don't push it on you. It doesn't seem to work for soda for some reason. And sometimes I just literally ignore these people and just walk away and do something else. And I've learned that if somebody doesn't accept you for your drinking habits, whether they be soda or beer, if they're not going to accept that, they're not good friends to begin with. And I find that by refusing soda, I have made a good filter for who I want to be friends with. And I have found that that's a very good filter to have. The other thing I've noticed is the people who tell me that it's okay to drink soda in moderation, the people who tell me that an occasional burger here or there it's not going to kill you. When you watch those people, and if you do a mental survey of people who tell you that versus people who accept you, I'm curious about which side you think is healthier. I've done the survey before in my head, and I have an answer, but I want you to think about that in your own head. Okay. So the other thing I've noticed is that some people, I noticed this with my mother especially, she, 10 years ago, she had, I don't know if she'd gone to a doctor or something, and the doctor basically gave her an ultimatum that she was at risk for developing various diseases, and she needed to clean up some things in her diet, or whatever it was. I don't know the details, because she doesn't want to discuss all of the details, but she needed to clean up her diet. And she would go the whole day grazing on all sorts of junk. And then at the end of the day, she would think she didn't really eat very much. And, you know, at one point I was kind of mentally calculating. Sometimes she was eating 3,000 or 4,000 calories without even thinking about it. And then she would complain, why is she not losing any weight? You know, she's not eating anything. I mean, she doesn't sit down to eat a meal probably, but I was mentally calculating this because I was just curious for my own sake. And, she did this for many years, complaining day after day after day. It's kind of funny because every time I would try to bring it up while she was eating, she got very uncomfortable with it. She only liked the eating when it was unconscious. Once she became conscious of what she was eating, it became a problem. And I've noticed this among a lot of my friends. I used to have a coworker who was trying to quit smoking. And he only liked the smoking when it was unconscious. Anytime that somebody brought up the fact that he was smoking, if he needed to take a smoke break during a meeting and we tried to hold him back, or anytime he became aware he was smoking, let's put it that way, he became very upset and defensive that he only smokes occasionally or whatever the case is, or that, he's going to die if he quits smoking. He became very cocky when he became aware of it. He only liked it when it was unconscious. And this is one thing I want to point out, because if you love a hobby, like I write computer games as a hobby, I like to view space, and I was just viewing, right now we're near a new moon, and I love to view Earth shine. This is when you have a crescent moon and the rest of the moon is lit up by the Earth. And, see, I would never be happy doing those things unconsciously. If games appeared on my computer that I can't remember writing, or pictures appeared on my camera that I don't remember taking, that wouldn't be a very pleasant hobby to have. If anything, that would be consuming, because that would mean that I was using up my time and not really enjoying it. That's what I'm trying to point out. If you only love your unhealthy lifestyle unconsciously, you're not loving it at all. It's loving you, that's what I'm trying to point out. But here's the funny thing. The reason my mom stopped doing that, the grazing, is kind of funny. She had been watching a TV documentary about the dangers of, can't remember which ingredient this was, maybe trans fat or MSG, one of those ingredients, and she wanted to start to read food labels to avoid them. And she realized that not only was she avoiding the ingredient, but the fact that she had to stop and read something or to Google something, it put a barrier between her and the grazing, and it made her aware of how much she was grazing it. And it's just kind of funny. Right now it's September that I'm recording this, and everybody knows that October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I always wish we had like a lifestyle awareness month where people just took inventory of what they were doing. Because so many people live in a dream. They eat stuff without reading the labels. They go about their day without realizing how little exercise they're getting. They don't get enough sleep, and they don't take inventory of it. They live on caffeine. And if we only took even a week out of the year to take inventory of just what we're doing and what we're eating, I think we would all be so much healthier. Because so many people only want to do this unconsciously. And it's kind of funny how my mom literally changed once there was some sort of barrier in between her and the food. Anyways, so I've been free of soda for 15 years and a lot of other junk ingredients for almost as long. Thanks for watching.